Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
What you believe about yourself and your ability to succeed resides deep down in your psyche. It's the accumulation of your personal experiences and also what you've been taught by family, teachers, coaches, and other important influencers in your life. But experience can teach us the wrong lessons, and many of the aphorisms drilled into us in our youth might keep us from achieving the success we desire. It's time to examine what you think you know, as Scott and I discuss dangerous lessons on episode 576 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
Aphorisms. That's going to be the word of the day, is aphorisms. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it sounds important.
Old
Looking
sayings.
forward to the topic. Old sayings. Okay.
Old sayings, that's
the
right.
adage is, it says this. That's going to be a great topic, and it's such an important one when we're in such an emotional related industry, and sales is very emotional, and we risk our emotions every single day. But before we get into the topic, we're going to cover our book club. Our book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Today, we're going to be covering chapters 10, 11, and 12 from part 3. And we're on the back side of this book. So
yeah, we've got part 4 and then we finish it up. So we're starting to think about what our next book is.
Yeah. So if you got any ideas, suggestions, we welcome your emails on books that have had the greatest impact on your career as a salesperson and what you wish other people would read that are in the same industry. But let's get on to part 3 here, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Chapter 10 is an appeal that everybody likes. And this was a really great chapter and a great reminder of when we approach situations, we have to begin with the end in mind. And this is Covey, of course. We've all heard it 100 times. But what is the desired outcome that we want? And when I was the past president of the sales and marketing executives and always bring in a speaker, I would always ask the speaker, what do you want people to do different when they leave the room? And different means, what are you going to start and where are you going to stop? I always think that a company that says, here's what makes us different doesn't necessarily position themselves as to what's better.
Right.
And when you do something different, that means that you also have to stop something that's not giving you the outcome and start something that will give you the outcome that you want. Bill, but what did you take away from this chapter? What did it remind you of that was really important in our career?
Well, I think it's good when we're looking at these chapters to go and see what the principle is that he's talking about. And principle 10 here is appeal to the nobler motives. I think that really relates to the Simon Sinek book, Begin with the Why, right? So we have reasons that we're doing things, but we want them to also be good long-term reasons. We want to have some kind of noble motive. So I want us to be able to sell you, but I also have to believe that my product is going to help you. And so I think that's kind of the nobler motives. We have two things going on. I want to make the sale, but I also want to make the sale right.
Yeah. And this is a line out of the book that a person usually has two reasons for doing a thing. One that sounds good and the other one is the real one. And I think sometimes we position things that are socially acceptable and behind closed doors, there's other motives that we pick. And that's not always bad, but like the principle said for principle 10 is, appeal to a noble motive. And there was a story in there about a publisher that kept printing a picture of an individual, and the individual finally called the publisher and said, please stop publishing that picture. My mother doesn't like it. and the motivation was he had a mother, the publisher had a mother, and the person that was being pictured had a mother. And, there was a combination there. Of
and maybe I don't like it either, but I want to tell you my mother doesn't like it.
Yeah. So this was just a good reminder. And with sales, it's important to get on the same side of the table with a shared interest and working together towards a common goal or an existing problem. And when you have that noble intention of getting on the same side of a table with somebody against the problem, you're working together with them. And that creates a good collaboration. I always say, work with, which is a common goal and a mutual commitment. And this is a great chapter that reinforces that. So that's what I really took away from it. The principle, again, is appeal to a nobler motive. Chapter 11 is the movies do it, TV does it. Why don't you do it? And I thought this was really a great chapter and really made me think about why commercials are so influential, because they really dramatize a certain idea. And that's the principle of 11 is dramatize your ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that people like commercials. I mean, we watch Super Bowl commercials. We
Right.
go to the internet the next day to watch Super Bowl commercials, and we're so entertained by them. But people hate bad commercials, and people don't like negative dramatization. There always, I mean, how many times do you hear we don't want to have any drama in the workplace, or we don't have any drama in our personal relationships? And there's a good drama and there's bad drama. And I think it's really important to paint a picture in a person's mind. And this is the right brain. And we remember things based on images, and we remember things based on feelings.
Right. Right.
And I thought that this was really important. I've been getting into a TV show, Suits. It's on Netflix. I think it's got 8 or 9 seasons to it. And it's about a law firm, a very aggressive attorney that is one of the named partners. And I watched that show, and I listen for the interaction and the negotiations and the strategy, and it really gets my mind thinking. That's my right brain. That's in the entertainment section of the brain, and I dwell on some of those things and I intellectualize them, and then it gives me an imagination that I can live on a daily basis. And I think that that's not bad. People say, "Well, you're watching too much TV." Well, I'm really stimulating my imagination and coming up.
And you're watching too much TV.
I am. I probably am. I'm really hooked on this one. But
well, one of the things I liked in this chapter was the story he ends with, which was the cold cream. A guy's trying to sell cold cream to this to a buyer, and what he finally does, he can't get their attention. Finally, he takes all the competitive cold creams and he labels them with the benefits and why people are buying them, and dumps them on the buyer's counter. And then the guy starts to pay attention to him. And I've thought of this story, 40 years ago, maybe not quite 30 years ago, I worked with Dale Carnegie, and this whole idea of dramatizing your sales pitch a little bit was brought up. And I've never been able, I don't think, to do this well, but I really admire people who can do something dramatic, something visual, something physical that will catch the attention of their buyer and make a strong point. That's what I think. There's another example in here, Scott, where he throws pennies on the ground and said, you're throwing pennies away by doing this wrong or having the wrong cash register or something. Yeah. And I've never been able to do that for my business, but I know there's people out there that are good at doing this and catching the attention, making a major point about what people are doing wrong, and they could do better if they bought my product.
Yeah, I heard a story. I don't know where it was, but when you go into the bathrooms in a public place, there's a place where people can change diapers for babies. And the thing comes down from the wall. I don't remember where it is. I don't have a child. I've never used it before. But the company that pitched that did it in a way of really engaging facilities managers, store managers, business owners that, host the public. And they came in with a baby and they put it on the floor. And they said, this is what you're telling your customers to do, is put their baby on the floor to change the diaper because there's no place for you to do it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's really dramatizing it.
That really is.
When OnStar came out.
Well, wait a minute. They must have done good, because every bathroom I go into, men and women's, have those changing stations.
Very effective.
Yep.
I haven't been in a women's locker room or bathroom, but I assume that they're there also.
Well, they have signs up saying they have them.
I have worked in restaurants and had to clean both bathrooms, so I digress. But when OnStar came out, it was in the Cadillac, and they were talking about how convenient it is. Well, you can order flowers, and you can make dinner reservations, and you can do all this. And it was convenience. Didn't sell. Did not sell. People did not engage with that. All of a sudden, they changed a commercial where you're upside down in a ditch, and you're hitting your OnStar button to call an ambulance. All of a sudden, people go, what a great idea. I'd love to have that. And then it just took off because it dramatized the benefits of it, and it made it emotional instead of convenient. And these days, convenience is very motivational too, but sometimes not as emotional. So
I think you can really separate yourself from your competition by doing something dramatic like that.
Exactly. I mean, you're creating a memorable moment with a lasting impact. And if you want to have that as a goal, then consider dramatizing your ideas. Principle number 11. Chapter 12 gets into when nothing else works, try this. Of course, that caught my attention because
we have plenty of times when nothing else works.
Right. And I love the story about the 3 shifts and the and the plant manager writing down on the
Oh, that's one of my favorite
floor,
stories. Yep.
how many loads they did or how many car loads they did or whatever you want to measure. And they would post it, on the board or write it on the floor so everybody could see it. And then the next shift, wanted to meet that or supersede
But
it.
who do you think you are? Do you think we can't beat that number?
Yeah. Well, we're going to get together, teamwork. We're all going to get together. We're all going to, get back to our work after our breaks and do that friendly competition. Now, here's one thing to look out for, though, is to be cautious about the one-upmanship. This is very common with guys. Did you go deer hunting last weekend? Yeah. How'd you do? I got an 8-point buck. Really great. I had a 12-point buck. And, you just want to one-up each other. And that's not quite as healthy. It can be good in a way, depending on the relationship, but just be cautious about friendly competition versus the one-upmanship. And really delivering what is really possible. Now, Bill, I've seen you do an exercise where you put a piece of paper on the wall as high up as you can possibly reach. Sometimes you have to stand on a chair.
No. Oh, yeah. When I put it up.
Yeah. So tell the listeners about that exercise, because what I do is every time you do it, it's amazing.
Yeah, I have a piece of paper way up, and I just say, I get 3 volunteers, each have a different colored marker, and I say, just draw a line on that chart on that piece of paper as high as you can. I keep it very nondescript, and they'll all walk up and put a line on the chart. And by the third one, well, he's trying to put a line a little higher than the other 2. And then I'll say to them, I'll tell you what, let's do that one more time and just try to put a line up higher than the one you put up before. And they'll go up there and they'll put one up higher. And I'll say, well, isn't that interesting? When I asked you to put one up as high as you can put one up higher. I said, let's try this one more time. Reach as high as you can. I really encourage it. Reach as high as you can and see if you can put a line up as far as you can. And they just get on their tiptoes and hold the marker on the very tip. And some of them jump and it gets real competitive. And the point of it is we can always do better if we just get a little encouragement and have another line to draw over. And I think that's a real simple exercise. It's a lot of fun to do.
It's an amazing exercise, Bill. I've seen you do it twice. And each time I am amazed at how you inspire and motivate people to draw that line higher. And I think that that's what a good sales leader does. A good leader is really inspiring people to be able to achieve more. And it's in them. They just have to be motivated and inspired to do it. So principle 12 is throw down a challenge. Which is really important. Sounds like a cage match.
There you go.
But it really causes people to do more when they feel like they can, and they're supported and they're encouraged to do it. And it's amazing what happens.
Yeah, I think this whole part 3, it just should speak to every salesperson out there about ways that I think it's called, what is part 3 called? How to win people to your way of thinking. That's what we're trying to do. So take these 12 principles and really learn them.
Yeah. Next week, we're going to dig into part 4, the final part of the book, chapters 1, 2, and 3. And looking forward to that.
Excellent. All right. Well, our topic for today is called Dangerous Lessons. And in his seminal work, The Magic of Thinking Big, I hope you've read that. If you haven't, go pick it up right now. David Schwartz discusses how our own self-talk and thinking can be the very root of our failure. He says, your mind is a thought factory. It's a busy factory, producing countless thoughts in one day. Production in your thought factory is under the charge of 2 foremen, one of whom we shall call Mr. Triumph and the other Mr. Defeat. End of the quote. So he gives a little description of each of these 2 different foremen, and then he says, quote, both Mr. Triumph and Mr. Defeat are intensely obedient. They snap to attention immediately. All you need to do is signal either foreman. All you need to do to signal either foreman is give the slightest mental beck and call. So whatever our predominant thoughts are rattling around in our head, Scott, they're going to contribute directly to the actions we take, whether positive or negative. So what Scott and I want to talk about today are some popular sayings that might have been drilled into each of your heads in your youth. And we're going to discuss whether they're hurting us or helping us. Now, Scott, I know you've talked a lot about in the past about your predominant thought and what's going on in your head and how things are hurting you. And did you kind of discover a few, we call them aphorisms, that that's the word of the day, right? Aphorisms that we want to talk about.
Yeah, we're raised with different beliefs based on, like you said, somebody that had a great impression on us at an age where we were very, very open-minded and learning. And in the opening, what made me really think about is a saying that I've heard many years ago, and that is, what you think about, you bring about.
Mm.
And when I do a program, I really want to be able to cause people to dwell on something. I mean, totally dwell on it. This is the thing, that topic that cannot let your brain relax so that you can fall asleep. And I think some important messages that salespeople have heard that have a really negative impact, and I'll just start off with one, is, related to money. And sometimes people, take the belief that it takes money to make money. And there's a certain amount of truth to that, but there's a certain amount of options in that area that are also work. I mean, you can self-fund, you can work and generate enough revenue to cover expenses. It's a lower ramp up, but it is possible. And sometimes another option is to borrow money and to be able to launch quicker. But really think about our relationship with money and that belief that it takes money to make money. What do you think of that one, Bill?
Well, I think that it's wrong. I think there's a million stories about people who started businesses with absolutely no money at all. The garage story. We live in Minnesota. Medtronic, a company that employs over 80,000 people now, was started by a couple of guys in a garage fixing some medical equipment. And so they didn't have a lot of money. Apple Computer started in the garage. Two guys trying to make a computer themselves. Now, maybe they got some investment later on, but they didn't start with a lot of money. I started my business as a consulting business with $0. I didn't have any money. I had one guy that said he would become my customer. And so I don't think it takes money to make money. And I think we use that, like a lot of these things, as an excuse to fail.
Yeah.
Oh, it takes money to make money, so I'm just going to work here as a janitor or whatever. Well,
right.
Use your brain to make money. The magic of thinking big, not the magic of sitting on your ass in your house. I don't think there's a book called that. So I don't believe in it takes money to make money.
There are some unique titles of books these days.
Yeah.
It's not one of them.
That's right. All right. One of the ones that I like is called "You Can't Teach an Old Dog New Tricks." And, I do think it is more difficult as we get older to learn, because we couple things happen. One, we become a little bit decided that we're not going to learn anymore. We just don't want to do the energy to change. But I think we have our neural pathways are more set, and we have more experiences. So we look at a new experience and we gauge it against old experiences, and we say, well, I don't think that's going to work because it didn't work before. The challenge is our whole entire economy has changed in the last 5 years, and things that wouldn't work 5 years ago are working now. Look at Zoom. Zoom had all kinds of trouble catching on. They couldn't charge hardly anything for what they were giving their services away. And then we had COVID, and all of a sudden Zoom exploded into the marketplace. And so you need to be able to change with the times. I rebelled against the smartphone for a while, kept my flip phone until I felt like an absolute idiot, an old fogey at 40 years old. So it's time to make a change and get the new phone, get the new technology. So be more flexible and don't rely on this. You can't teach an old dog new tricks as an excuse to fail and get left behind.
Right. Yeah. We gravitate towards what we're familiar with, but not always in the area of growth. And we surrender to complacency. So I can see that is very impactful. I'm going to stick with money. There's another one that I have, is that money won't make you happy. Well, money does really provide a lot of things in life that can create comfort and can make you happy.
That's right.
If it's
don't make you sad.
It's made and spent wisely.
Oh, I had that money and I got so sad.
Oh, but it's like And I just want to really reinforce the relationship conceptually that we have with money is so important. And there's really three beliefs. It's, money doesn't grow on trees. There's more of that where that came from. And it's not polite to talk about money. And most of us were raised with it's not polite to talk about money. And when we have an unhealthy relationship with money, it can really sabotage all of our actions. And I say that a dollar bill is an instrument used to exchange value. That's all it is. It's just
it shows what value you give.
Right. So money won't make you happy. Yeah, no, I think money can make you happy, but
well, I got to tell you, Scott, the person who says that never had enough money to know.
Right.
I've never had somebody who was rich tell me that. It's always the broke person who wants to use it again as an excuse to stay broke. Well, money won't make you happy, so I'm going to continue to do nothing to try to accumulate a better life.
Right.
But I've talked to a couple of rich people and they say, well, you know what? It makes me pretty happy because I know what to do with it. I know how to handle it.
Yeah. Usually those people have really kind of elevated to a higher level and they have a sense of purpose and meaning and they're contributing that to society. And that really brings them a lot of joy. And it's usually in our later years where we're able to volunteer and really see the difference that we make when we invest our time.
Yeah. Well, if I'm driving an old beater car that I'm not sure will get me from A to Z, I'm not happy.
I understand. That's true too. So, what else would you have, Bill?
All right. Good things come to those who wait. Nothing comes to those who sit around waiting. That goes back to my book title, I Think I'll Get Rich by Sitting on My Ass in My House and Watching YouTube. It's not going to happen if you sit around waiting. You'll just get cobwebs all over you.
Yeah.
Good things come to those who go out and work.
Right.
And make a difference. And you said that money is the value that you give to society. Go out and find something valuable to do. Find something that's going to make a difference in people's lives. I think it's unfortunate that our society doesn't always value some jobs, like teachers don't get paid a tremendous amount, even though they do something that's very important. But if you don't like that, then go find something from a business-oriented standpoint as a way that you can teach people and help people. So good things don't come to those who wait. Good things come to those people who go out and look for value and look for a way to contribute more to society.
Here's one that I heard that it's definitely false. And I think too many salespeople believe that it is true. And that is that the customer is always right. The customer only knows what they think that they know. And a salesperson is an expert in the product or service that they're offering a prospect. And it's really important for salespeople to be able to listen to what a customer is saying to describe their perception of a product or service. And it's important for the salesperson to be able to correct any misconceptions, to be able to fill in the blank if there's something missing, and to really understand what is the end goal, what is most important when it comes to making a decision like this. And if we believe that the customer is always right, then there's no reason for the customer to ever change, because if we don't challenge them, we won't change them. And this is one of the ones that I just believe is just totally false. The customer is not always right.
No, they're not always right, and they don't always know everything. That's our job, is to help them learn what they don't know. I think the value in this aphorism is that we need to understand that they think they're right. And we can't go charging into them and tell them they're wrong. I think that's a Dale Carnegie principle. Don't tell people they're wrong. Help them illustrate it, right? Dramatize your ideas and show them how they could do something better, and you'll provide more value. Again, these are all about providing value. So yeah, the customer's not always right, but you got to handle it carefully. So
yeah. What's your next one? We'll wrap them up.
Yeah, we got a couple more here. You can't be too careful. That's one I heard. You can't be too careful. Yes, you can be too careful. I have a saying here on a card on my desk. You can't get to second if you keep your foot on first. Right. And it's a baseball saying, right? I can't move unless I'm willing to take a chance to get to second. I've got to push myself out of my comfort zone, that desire to be too careful, and take a chance. Risk is what provides value. Investors take a risk. That's why they earn money, but they also take a chance on losing money. Making that phone call is a risk. Meeting that new person, going to networking, those are all risky situations. But if you don't take that risk, you're just going to sit in your office and wait for the phone to ring, and it's not going to happen. So you can be too careful if you're going to make something happen in your life.
Jordan Peterson wrote a book on the 12 life principles. I think that's the name of it. It's a white book. One of the chapters in there is never interrupt a kid while he's skateboarding. And I read that. I'm like, that is such a true statement, because they're really trying to figure it out. Let them figure it out. And when they're doing something that's dangerous carefully, I think that's another one of his lines, it's a way for them to be able to take on the responsibilities, to be able to learn how to do it, and to manage the risk that's involved. And totally agree with that. My last one is sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can never hurt me. And man, is that just not true? Because during a young
sticks and stones part they will break your bones.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I mean, I think about, growing up in junior high, I was bullied. I was verbally and physically bullied until one day I wore my cowboy boots to school and I kicked the kid's feet right out from underneath him. The first thing to hit the ground was his head. And they took him to the emergency room, and I was called into the principal's office, and I said, maybe he'll stop picking on me. And that was it. And I got no punishment for it because everybody knew that it was an issue, and it stopped. It never continued when I fought back on that. But the bullying these days is verbal, it's cyber, it's social media, and it's very destructing. And there's just not enough times where we get a positive message during a young, impressionable age. And as an adult, one of my lines is, again, from Jordan Peterson, is why take hope away from somebody when that's all they have? Mm-hmm. So don't try to sink their boat in a sentence or a word or a response when there's nothing to win on that. So words can be very hurtful.
Yeah, I think we can crush people, and all of us have experienced, especially from somebody that we value, a negative word or a negative comment to say, I don't think you could do that. I don't think you're the right person. I don't think you're capable. Those kind of words can really hurt us, and we dwell on those things. I think sometimes I'd rather get punched in the arm than have a negative comment about me that I'll dwell on. Wake up in the middle of the night with your ears turning red, thinking about that thing that somebody said to you. So I would caution people to be very careful in their words. And as you said, Scott, don't hide behind some anonymous name online to crush people. Just watch what you do. They talk about the suicide rate, especially among young girls who are cyberbullied. It's just terrible. So yes, I think words can hurt you, and they can hurt you for a long, long time. I think that aphorism is to try and tell you as a child, don't let that bother you so much, but they do bother us. So good. Well, there's 7 or 8 different aphorisms that you can take to the bank, and think about the things that you've learned in your life. Think about, are these good lessons? Are these true? Or am I using these as an excuse to not do something? Right. Good things come to those who wait. Money is the root of all evil. Whatever those are, see if you can banish those from your mind, because those are words that might be hurting you as well.
Right. Good message on a secular level. There is a sacred truth to some areas that we live our life if we have a faith-based attitude or outlook. And there are some, sayings that are more sacred that are true that we need to live also. So we need to put this in context. I'm always curious what our listeners are experiencing when it comes to those what do you call them? Aphorisms?
Yep.
Aphorisms are, these negative beliefs, these affirmations that don't support us. What are the ones that you struggle with as a listener to the show? Please email them to Bill and I. I'm really curious what they are, and I'm just curious what has had the greatest impact in your life and what you have done to overcome it.
And all of our contact information is on the show page at winningatselling.com, right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So any resources that you want to offer, Bill?
Yeah, I'm still offering my Jumpstart Sales Coaching. It's an introductory program, 60 minutes initial intake, and then we have 5 30 minutes of ongoing sessions. So contact me if you want to jumpstart your sales career it's time to make a change now. It's time to invest in yourself. And this is a great way to get started. And a friend of mine told me, man, you're doing that so cheap. It's like, yeah, I want people to have a chance. You know, your company won't always invest in you. You may have to invest in you. So
yeah. It's a great program, and it is a very reasonable price. And it's always amazing what people take away one saying that changes their life. And it's something that is relevant to the person that you're talking with. It's their truth that they're sharing with you and their challenge. And with a small investment like that, they really walk away with a different mindset. So it's a very, very important offering. And you can find that on the website at winningatselling.com. Our golden nugget is a quote from JFK, John F. Kennedy. Leadership and learning are indispensable to each other, and they really go hand in hand. And the topic today that Bill presented was definitely reinforcing learning away and being a leader in the industry or the relationships that you have. What does that quote mean to you, Bill?
Well, I kind of think about that. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? This is the opposite of it. If you're going to be a leader, you've got to continue learning. Don't let yourself get stale. One of the things that this podcast does for Scott and I is it keeps us fresh. We're always having to be challenged with new ideas, and our guests come on and give us new ideas. So I think that's really important.
It is very much.
All right. All the information we talked about today is at winningatselling.com. This is episode 576 called Dangerous Lessons.
So our book club next week, we're going to be chapters 1, 2, and 3 from part 4. Our topic is going to be, are you ready for sales training? Please go out and subscribe and share this podcast with your colleagues and others on social media.
Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.